One of the boxes that we made during that joinery class, that was the green and green style box. And the thing I thought I might talk about is we didn't have time to put the authentic ebony plugs in during the class, and they were designed to be 3/16 plugs anyway. And when I got home, I thought 3/16 looked a little small, so I started looking around and found out that I could buy, which is a heck of a lot easier than making all of those tiny little plugs, 5/16 plugs from Rockler. And since the green and green people were kind of practical people and plastic hadn't been invented, I took artistic liberty and bought the plastic plugs. Now, you can probably tell if you get really close. I'm not sure you're close enough there or the close-up to tell they're plastic instead of ebony. But while the Rockler plugs were just fine, the Rockler chisel, the square chisel that is in part used to put those in, had terrible reviews that it bent over. So that's why I put the other plugs, or the other chisels, right next to them. Close up. Those are available here, and while I'm not selling them because they don't like to sell their things here, I'm certainly recommending them for just maybe double the price. You get 4 chisels here that actually don't bend over, that are made out of decent steel, as opposed to the one at Rockler. So, there you go. That's my story.
Did you finish on the box was?
Sir?
How did you finish the box?
Oh, yes, senior moment, oil of some kind. Yes.
30 weight?
Yeah, 30 weight oil. And then put a wax over that.
Those are mine. I just had picked up some blanks of some odd woods, and I just thought I'd try and turn them and see if I could make something out of them. The one on the left is a wood that I've never heard of before, and I'm told it's pronounced Hormigio. And the one on the right is Patouk.
Okay. In the process of showing Larry how to make pins, I got jealous because he was having such a good time. I made about 15 pins the other day, but those are Coco Polo. I think they're gorgeous. So, anyway, we really want to show off Larry's pins, but I figured I don't want him to get mad at me. I don't want to put pins in.
This is slingshot body. This was how do you make a slingshot if you don't happen to have a natural fork in a piece of wood with a natural fork. So I laminated it in different directions, layers. You can kind of see them there for my 9-year-old grandson.
You're gonna regret that move.
How many windows has he broken yet?
It's the beauty of being a grandfather. You don't have to worry about those kind of things. Let the parents worry about it.
Oh, okay, yeah. You give it to him as he's pulling out of the driveway, huh?
That's called poetic justice.
Okay, actually, the front one is mine if you can zoom in on it. The front one. Okay, could you zoom more?
We can pass it around.
Yeah, we can pass around it. Basically, I've been playing with the engraver, and that there was 2 things I did on this for the first time. One, I got 2 lines straight that match each other, and the other, with the glue finish, I managed to make it smooth so that you don't feel the engraving underneath. So if you want, we can pass that around. That's a CA finish.
What sort of engraver are you talking about?
It's that Chinese engraver that's about $100.
It's not a handheld.
No,
it's not an engraver. Well, it's a laser.
It's a laser.
Oh, okay.
That's another example of Stewart's laser engraver. We purchased one. We're playing with it at Rob's shop. If you go to the object above it, zoom out. Now, Rob did all these pins when I did my pins, so I had to make a platform for mine to make it stand out. That's my first $3,000 pin. As I do more, they'll get cheaper, but that's the first.
That's what it cost you as opposed to what you're selling it for?
No, that's what it cost me, tools and their equipment, so yeah.
The second one's gonna be about $2, but I figure we can write it off on the first one.
Gosh, I wish you could really do cost recovery that quick.
Buzz, you wanna talk about them?
Well, this is one of those things that started out where I told Rob, I said, I need a birthday present from my grandnephew. And then Rob goes, well, I need some presents for Christmas for my grandsons. And then Tom said, I need one of these. So we have a whole fleet of these trucks. A couple of which are here. One's already hanging on the wall in Lawrenceville. We kind of got this idea, you know, of different things you see online, but then we kind of modified it and we did our own thing. Someday if I get energetic, I'll make a plan for it. But it was kind of fun, and there was a whole bunch of guys that had their hand in it. Larry, me, Tom, of course Rob, you know, he provides all the electricity and the wood, well, sort of. We did a wood shopping trip. It's maple and a little bit of walnut trim, and then once Larry got that little toy, we said, you know what, these trucks need the name. We named the trucks, and of course, dust chutes have little tags hanging from them, and fly swatters, and you name it. It's going to have a wood burn tag before it's all done.
I mean, you made that whole thing without any kind of plan, huh?
Pretty much. When I do SketchUp, it's with a piece of paper and a pencil.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that is the scroll saw person. That is the scroll saw person.
Oh.
I had a person call me on the phone and said, well, I got some wood that one of my workers brought in. We're replacing boards in a covered bridge. You want to come over? He said you might want them. You want to come over and look at them? And I told him no. And I said, what time can I pick them up? So I got about 8 or 9 boards, about 10 foot long. It's the covered bridge is about 40 years old. It's not an old one, but it's a white oak.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting.
It really is.
I'm saying something that says I say it has a natural edge because the edge around the outside that I have left on there, that's where the cars and trucks were running over it all the time. So that's why I consider that a natural edge. It's not bulk. I understand that. And the other three are some cedar ones I was playing with.
Ooh, yeah.
And your finish is finish I learned from my master, which is my one.
We're going to start calling you a scroll turner.
The boxes?
No, those are ring boxes. That's the samples of what I'm going to be doing next month.
Gotcha. A little chatter mark there. And
What kind of wood you using on them, Dan?
Whatever's handy.
Okay. So you don't need much. You don't really need much.
that's the Vietnam service ribbon, right? Correct?
Yep. Vietnam service ribbon. Yeah.
Right, okay. On a PSI bolt action pin blank. Very nicely done, I
Just
might
bought
say.
a gun case for it too. Yeah,
Extend-
bolt action.
Yeah, it's bolt
Leave
action.
it on the table.
Well, calm down. Fine.
Do it.
Okay. Okay, now
You
you
see
got
it now?
All right. You got it?
I bought that pin kit at, actually I bought two of them at the AAW this summer, and one for my neighbor who was in the Navy on the coast of Vietnam and got sprayed with all kinds of chemicals, and having all kinds of problems.
Agent Orange. This one right here belongs to me.
So far.
This was a piece of curly maple that I had laying on my shop floor for about 10 or 15 years. Bought it from Atlanta Hardwood Products, and you can see the rippling in it, okay, from the curly. And I figured, heck, I better go ahead and turn it now. And man, it just came out really sweet. So I finished it with shellac, and then I put a coat of Carnauba paste wax on it. And I want to finish it up. I want to put a finial on top of it as well here eventually. I just haven't done it yet. And this right here is also mine. That's a box elder. This Rob and I went and picked up one day, and just figured I'd turn it into a hollow form. And I chickened out. I admit it. I got to a point where I said that's enough, and I quit turning it. There was just a piece of scrap, and I thought, well, heck, you know, I'll give it to somebody. So, but it got to the point where I kind of liked it, and I thought, well, hey, I finished also with shellac as well. I don't know why. I always thought somebody told me. I thought Jack was into doing shellac, and he said, no, shellac. Well, there you go. You want to do that one?
That's my piece, Jack Morris. I finally figured out what to do with spalted wood that got the white rot spalled in it that's not to fall apart. And it's polyurethane, regular oil-based polyurethane. You just keep putting it on there, keep putting it on there, let it soak in, let it soak in, let it soak in as much as it would take. Let it set up for a week, and then you can turn it.
Sweet.
Pardon? Oh, that's red maple, spalted red maple. And we had a guest speaker at Chattahoochee Woodturners, Sarah Robinson from University of Oregon, and she's an expert on spalt. And those black lines in the spalting are zone lines, and on each side of that black line is a different type of fungi.
Right.
And you'll see different colors even in that, and every different color is a different fungus, species of fungi. And the black is the same thing that pigments the skin, and it's real hard, and it just, the fungi just block their area off from everybody else. And so that's what gives you those black lines. And the white rot goes after the cellulose in the wood, and that's why it deteriorates it. But the other fungi in the smaller areas are after the sugar in the wood, so they don't deteriorate the wood. And she's got a book out, Spalted Wood. It's on Amazon for $45. It's a $60 list price on it. It's worth every penny of it.
Jack, on that, like I said, I'm just going to go for the bowls. There, that piece we haven't talked about. On the bowl, do you turn it at all before you saturate it?
I turned it where I still had an 1/8 inch to turn off both sides.
Oh, okay.
And then totally saturated it. And I didn't get that one quite good enough, so I still got some holes in it.
Could you dilute it and then dip it?
Well, you know, super glue will harden it, but it won't fill the voids. The same with the wood hardener. It hardens it, but it won't fill the voids. Where the polyurethane has enough body to it to fill the voids in the wood.
And then you do a number of coats and it does.
Yeah.
Have you tried using the thick super glue? It comes in different
I know.
viscosities.
I know, but when you've got that much that you're putting in there, when you're putting a quart in there, you don't want to buy a thick super glue.
Well, and also the super glue is going to dry on the surface. Like
Yeah,
this.